I get paid bi-weekly. So on Friday, as soon as that check clear, I'm on the computer like making sure my money know where it's supposed to go. I always clap in the beginning of my videos, like why? Anyways, I'm back with another budgeting video slash a video about budgeting. This is gonna be kind of like a part 2 to my last video. I'm gonna put it in the cards up here. This is gonna answer some questions that I got a lot in the comments of the last video. Answer as an update for what I'm currently doing and things that have changed now for me using this budgeting method. Got my handy dandy notes right here. So one of the questions that I got on the last video was how many envelopes you should have or how many envelopes I have. I started with 7 envelopes, now I have 6, but that's because of like the digital version that I'm doing. Like I said, I started with 7. Envelopes are a series of like long-term and short-term goals that you may have. So the amount of envelopes that you have is like totally up to you. Some of the long-term envelopes that I have are like my medical envelope because I'm constantly contributing to that, and new place, which is not that long-term now, but when I started it, I knew that that was like kind of like a year-long goal that I had to contribute to, or that I wanted to contribute to. Meanwhile, some of my short-term envelopes are like Christmas. I haven't taken it out yet, but obviously I'm gonna take that money out before December. And then my clothing envelope, which I constantly like go in, contribute to, take out, XYZ. So yeah, it's completely up to you. Another question that people had was a bill versus an envelope. Like I said, an envelope can essentially be thought of as a long-term or short-term savings goal, whereas a bill has a due date attached to it. That's not optional to pay. Please don't get it confused. A bill has a due date on it. So someone asked about like credit cards, student loans, etc. Obviously, student loans are due at a certain time of the month for every different person. That is a bill that will get added to your bill list. Credit cards are a little bit different because obviously you can put the bare minimum on your credit card if you want to. It really depends. The way that I'm doing my credit card right now is that I contribute to whatever I have left on there every single time I get paid. So I'm treating it kind of like an envelope in the sense that I'm constantly contributing to it, but I also know that it's a bill and like it has a due date. So if you have an insane amount of credit card debt and you're like working towards getting that down, you do need to lock in on that and treat it like a bill, like it has a set amount that you want to pay towards it each month, or else it's not gonna go anywhere. Another question that came up in the video and when I was just talking to people who I was helping out with their budget, you know, in my spare time, is the way that you should distribute the money to your envelopes. And there's essentially 2 ways to do this. Randomly, which I currently do, where I just put the most amount of money towards the sinking fund that like I have the highest goal with. So for me right now, that's like a new place. So whatever amount that I have left over after I'm done like distributing my funds through my bills and my variable expenses, I'm gonna try to put at least 100, or even let's say if I have only $20 left over, I'm putting 10 towards that new place fund, like no matter what. So you just have to set that goal with yourself, like this is getting X amount of the money no matter what. For most checks, I always try to do at least $100 to $200 to this fund no matter what, because that's a big goal that I have and one that's like coming relatively soon. The other way to do it, if you want to be more specific, is to use a formula that I found. And like, let's say I want to save $600 to go on vacation with my boo in like March or April. I'm saying March because like if the trip is in April, usually you're paying for stuff ahead of time. Like I don't want to be trying to find a flight April 1st. So I need to make sure that I'm saving for March. And let's say March is 15 weeks away and I know I want to save $600. I'm going to take $600, divide that by 15, and that's the amount that I should be putting towards that sinking fund weekly. Unless you get paid bi-weekly, then of course you're gonna multiply that by 2, and that's the amount that you should be putting in once you get that check bi-weekly. Same thing if you get paid monthly, you're gonna multiply it by 3 or 4, depending on how many weeks the month month has in it, and that's the amount that you should contribute to that fund monthly to make sure that you're reaching that goal on time. This method is really, really good if like you know you have a specific date and the specific amount that you want to pay. If you don't have a specific amount that you want to reach, it's kind of like whatever. But if you have a specific date or time of the year and you have a specific amount, that's like a great way to budget and allocate those funds. Another question was, how frequent should you do this budgeting method? And for me, I do it every single time that I get a check. So whether that's a paycheck, second job check, if you have a second job, your side hustle check, whatever, you should be budgeting that money as soon as you get it, because nothing is worse than like, I've done this before when I like was doing my old method. Nothing is worse than like I already went out to eat or something and I get back and I'm like, my numbers ain't adding up. And then I'm like, dang, because you're supposed to budget that money, but you started spending it already. So as soon as I get that check, I really try not to do anything or buy anything until I work that budget out. Obviously, if you have like bills on auto pay and stuff, it's gonna get taken out regardless. But for your variable expenses, remember, variable is stuff that you like are spending on the daily. Make sure that you do that budget first. For me, I get paid bi-weekly, so on Friday, as soon as that check clear, I'm on the computer like making sure my money know where it's supposed to go. Speaking of knowing where your money is supposed to go, the whole purpose of this budgeting scheme or idea, which I had to like reconfirm with myself the other day and it felt really good, is that every dollar has a purpose. I know sometimes when I'm like doing my budget or it's, you know, a couple days before payday, I'm like, sis, you got $11 left. But I forget that like I essentially budgeted so that I would have technically $0 by, you know, the end of each cycle before the next pay period, because you already gave every single dollar a place and you know where that money is going already. Like, you essentially, when you're setting up this budget, you are telling yourself that you're gonna spend $200 on groceries for the, I'm not spending $200 on groceries, but just saying, you're telling yourself that you're spending $200 on groceries for the next 2 weeks. Does that make sense? So when you get worried and you see like, dang, I got $5 left, it should actually be celebrated, because that means that you kind of overjudged yourself. You didn't actually spend as much as you thought you were gonna spend during that cycle, and that $5 that's left over can either roll over to your next variable expense, like I can add 5 more onto my gas budget, or I can move that 5 over to a sinking funds envelope. So the biggest change that I've done so far with this budgeting method is that I have moved completely digital with it. When I came to London, I knew that there was like no way that I was gonna be going to the ATM every 2 weeks and pulling money out, because this exchange rate is some serious. And I would just be losing money by doing that, and it did not make sense for me to do that. So I started checking out my different options, and like honestly, if you look on YouTube, there's not that much out there like by way of using the digital envelope system that I felt like resonated with me or seemed easy to use to me, until I saw someone using a Capital One 360 checking and savings account. This is not a Capital One video. I wish it was. Hey Capital One, hey y'all. But until I saw someone using a Capital One 360 savings account, I already have my main savings account with my primary bank, and that's like the card that I use obviously for my bills, and I try not to touch that savings. I have a portion of my check that goes into that savings every month, no matter what is there. That's like the emergency fund, or like the savings fund, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't know how to like navigate this process digitally. I already had Capital One credit cards, so I was like, they seem like a decent bank, I'll do it. I trust them. I mean, as much as you can trust any bank. We know it's a little sketchy out there. But anyways, regardless, Capital One allows you to open up multiple savings accounts with no charge at all. So that's already like a W in my eyes. I ended up opening 6 savings accounts with them. I will put like a little screen thing on the video so that you can see like the process that you would do to go through opening up an account if you do not already have one, and if you do already have one, it's super duper easy. I don't know if I got like approved faster because like I said, I already have a card with them, But I opened up 6 accounts, and some people ask like, well, how did you do this? And you essentially like, you literally open up a new account. It's not like, oh, I'm adding or I'm doing this, blah, blah. It's like I'm physically going and starting this page over and over again 6 times until I get to the amount of sinking funds that I want. I think you can only have 6 because like I had to combine 2 of my funds, which is like my travel fund and my boss fund. But I know mine, it's whatever. It's still convenient for me. Another great thing about Capital One and the 360 savings account is that you can add a name to the account. That way I'm not just like staring at 6 different accounts that are just numbers and I'm like, what goes to what? I can actually sit there and track it and see that, okay, this is going to new place, this is going to travel, this is going to car, and this is going to medical. Makes it especially easier on payday when I am like transferring that money over there, because I can go boom, boom, boom. I already wrote down what I have to do, and it's easy peasy. Then after I overcame that hurdle, I was like, okay, how am I going to use this money if I want to use it? So I opened up a Capital One 360 checking account. You don't have to do that, obviously. I just did that because I only had 1 debit card anyways, and so I was like, whatever, this can be my other debit card, and I only use this debit card for variable expenses. I do not pay any bills with this debit card, nothing like that. So it's completely separate from my other one. This one is only for variable expenses, or if I'm transferring money from those sinking funds envelopes, I can easily move it within this system thanks to Capital One's like nesting network. It also makes it super easy because they do accept Zelle, which I love. Like I don't have to go to the bank or do anything extra. I literally set up my Capital One account as like a Zelle recipient for my Chase account. So every Friday I just Zelle myself the money through Capital One and I distribute it amongst my accounts. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Obviously this process is super convenient, but for me the downsides of that is that it's harder for me to track my variable expense spending using the digital method. So when I get back to the States, like I may take out some of my variable expenses like groceries and having fun, and keep that in cash on me, because out here you can start to just have like that just swipe mentality because you're seeing like one chunk of money instead of having it broken down. So to combat this, sometimes like every couple of days I will go through Capital One and like look at my digital statements and see like, okay, you already ate out this day, this day, this day, add that up, subtract it from my total and see how much I have left, just to make sure I'm on track and to kind of give myself a wake-up call. The other limit, which some people might not even see as a limit, I don't necessarily see it as that much of a limit because I don't go into my sinking fund envelopes that much. But obviously if it's a savings account, you get a set number of withdrawals every month. I think it's 6. It's like the federal limit, isn't it? Before you have to pay like $5 or something like that. But I'm not even doing that many withdrawals, so it doesn't really matter. Like if I know I'm going shopping, I don't transfer money each purchase, or each time I go to a new store. I either swipe my card and then look at the total later and like transfer that amount one time from my clothing envelope, or I transfer everything out of my clothing envelope at one time, add up the purchases, and then transfer back in whatever was remaining. I've also gone digital with how I'm tracking my budget. Before I was doing it on my iPad, which I actually love. Like I highly suggest when you're first starting out to physically write down everything. Like that really helped me double check my math. That really helped me double check my math, make sure I was getting the right amount of money out of the bank and blah, blah, blah. When I was doing it on my iPad, it just looked like this. Not the glare. It just looked like this, where I had my categories and then the amount, obviously a lot of arrows going on. But if you are interested, I have made like a PDF version and a digital journal version. If you do have an iPad and you want to download that, they will be available in the description box. The method that I use now and that I'm like sharing primarily with other people is an Excel sheet. On the first page, it has directions. It is an Excel sheet. It comes with a bill list so you can easily input your bills and their dates. And then for the month of January, although we're not in January, obviously, it has directions on how to use each section with a breakdown of like, this goes here, your total should be this. And it also has built-in formulas. That way you don't have to do any extra math. It does it for you. If you're interested in that also, it'll be in the description box as well for download. Each one teach one. I'm using what works for me and I want to share that with everyone. If anybody has any other questions about this method, if you need like a face-to-face help or a little chat, I might be available. We'll see how that plays out. Anyways, I hope this answered some of the questions that I got. If you have more questions, please leave them down below. I actually love talking about this. Like, for some reason, it's something that I really like. So again, if you have any questions, holla at the kid. I hope this video helped everyone that it needs to, and I'll see you on the next video.